it's Marco Williams from Hashbang Games, and I want to showcase my new utility that I will be putting into the assets store called SKStudio. What Sprite Keyframe Studio does is allow you to take a sprite sheet that is basically like what you're seeing here, where I have a material and a normal sprite sheet, and turn it into a Unity animation. Let me delete this real quick. So we're starting from scratch. So to do that, to use this utility, you would go up to my Hashbang menu, click SKStudio, and you have a window that comes up. One thing to note before we get into selecting our material is that your texture needs to have the read write enabled. You can turn this off after you've generated the animation, but while you're generating the animation, this setting needs to be on, or you're going to get an error. So let's go ahead and begin. First, we'll select our material, and notice that the alignment is all the way off. That's because our defaults are set to 8 columns and 16 rows, but we don't have that many. We only have a 6x6 sprite sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 6 here and 6 here, and we're going to go ahead and set the frame rate to let's just say 30 frames per second. So once we've set this up and we verified that our sprite is looking correct, we can go ahead and click Create New Animation. What we want to do is create a sequence. A sequence is from the start of the animation to the end of the animation. So we'll go ahead and first mark our start. We'll scroll down, since we're going to use the entire sprite sheet, and click the end. You can preview the animation at any time by right-clicking and selecting Preview Animation. And this will show you what your animation is going to look like. Now we want to add the sequence and name it. You'll see that it starts on frame 0 and goes for 36 frames. I want to call this burner. Now I want to generate animations. What this has done is it has created an animation file for you with all of the frames of your animation. It has also created a prefab. The prefab is kind of rotated off of its axis, and it's not you'll probably want to build your own prefab, but this is just so that you can see the animation right after you create it. So I'm going to close out Sprite Keyframe Studio. I'm going to drag my animation into the scene. So notice it's on this flat card, and it's just kind of not in front of the camera. So to point it towards the camera, I'm going to go ahead and just rotate it 90 degrees here, and I think it's -180 here, and now we can see it. Another thing you want to do is make it loop. So click on your animation and select loop. Now we can preview this by clicking play. Why didn't it play? Aha, I know why. It didn't play because I have not set the default animation in here. So I'm going to go ahead and set the default animation and click play. And there you have it. So what I want to do now is go into a little more advanced technique with this. So let's first figure out where my thing is. And we can go ahead and kind of stretch it up a little bit so it looks a little more like a flame. So to get a little more advanced, oh, I did that for nothing. what we're going to do is create a different animation using multiple sequences in the same sprite sheet. So let's go ahead and just delete our prefab out, and I'm going to keep this, and I have another texture in here, and it's my main character. And as you can see, he's running north and south and east and west from in here. So we're going to split those out into separate animations. So I'm going to select my material, and this is a 8 by 16. So I'm going to I'm going to create my new animation, and I'm going to mark my start of my first frame and the last frame. And I'm going to go ahead and add this sequence, and I'm going to call this north. And if I preview it, I can see that it's running north, and it's just playing from the start to my end frame. Now let's generate another sequence. I can simply just drag the start to where I want it to be, and now I can just drag the end to where I want it to be, and I can add a new sequence. You'll notice that it now starts at frame 16 and still goes for 16 frames. I'm going to call this northeast. Let's go ahead and generate one more. You can drag this down, drag this over, preview. Looks correct to me. Add sequence, and this will be called east. Now I'm going to generate the animations, and it will generate all three. You'll notice that the animations are generated underneath the material name folder. So here we have north, northeast, east. And on our prefab, you will also notice that all the animations have been already added to your object. I'm going to go ahead and drag this into our scene, and I'm going to close Sprite Keyframe Studio. Again, I'm going to need to rotate this 90 degrees. Maybe I can put this so that it automatically does this for you. So that we can see it inside of here. My camera is a little close, so this is a very low res texture that I'm looking at, but you get the idea. So what I'm going to do now is drag each of the animations to the default and play them. But first I'm going to set them to loop. Now that he's playing the north, if I push play, you can see that he's going to play the north run animation. Now I'm going to switch the animation to the east, and he will run east. And we'll try northeast to verify all of them are working. And it looks like they are. So that's the basics of Sprite Keyframe Studio. I hope you enjoyed my walkthrough, and look for it in the asset store when it's available. Thanks.